Hey everybody, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here with a board game preview today from our partners at Hacko Games and Organic Aromas. We have their new title, Aroma, which is a very unique 4-in-1 board game that covers how to smell. That's right, I said it. This is a nose-based board game where you will be competing against your opponents to quickly identify various types of essential oils that are scented in 4 categories: plants, trees, citrus, and floral. So you'll be looking to again identify things like lemon, lime, rose, pine before your opponents. With a little bit of bluffing, a little bit of trickery, and some challenges along the way, you will try to prove that you have the dominant nose. So let's jump in and learn how to play Aroma. Aroma is a scent-based game for 2 to 4 players where you take on a certain color and a scent of essential oils and will be competing with your opponents in various different game types to prove that you have the best nose in the game, that you know your smells. Now, in this game, there are 4 different ways to play Aroma, but I'm going to be showcasing the first game type, the Discover game type. So this is the setup. Each player would take a oil tray, a color, and would kind of slot it into the middle here. So we're set up for a 4-player game. They have their player marker, and then they'll have their 5 cubes to kind of mark their particular scent of scents that will be in the game. Now, obviously, say we were playing a 3-player game, green would just be entirely removed from the game. But again, this is a 4-player game, so we'll have all the oils in play. Now, there are 5 oil scents from each of the 4 various categories, and they each come in these nice little vials that are a roller applicator and have a number at the bottom. Now, again, if you're wondering how do we know and keep track of all of these scents, there are little cheat sheets here that tell you 1 through 20 what it is. So you match the number. So this, number 2, is this particular clary sage. So we know for a fact that this is sage, and we can always find its way back to the proper place once the games are over. Now, for the Discover game type, the way that we finish setup is we're going to take all of these oils and we're going to put them all together. We're going to mix them and jumble them all up, and then we're going to put them back randomly in everybody's tray. So everyone will have 5 oils at the start of the game, but they will not necessarily be their own. They could be anybody's. We don't know what they are, which is part of the game. So what we'll do, let's say I was the floral player and I'm going first. What I'll do is I will select my first oil, and I will apply it to one of these scent strips here that are provided in the game. I will smell it, and then I will make a statement. I will say what I believe, whether truthfully or untruthfully, what I believe that scent to be. So say I was like, oh, this is definitely pine. Once you make that statement, you're going to choose a player, and that player is your challenger. It could be any other player. So say I chose, since I said pine, let's say I chose the red player, the tree player, and say, okay, red, I think this is pine. That player gets a choice. They can make the statement, okay, yeah, I agree with you, that is pine, or they can disagree with me. Now, they don't get to smell the oil before they make this statement. It's a little bit of a bluffing deduction aspect in the game. So let's say that player says, yes, I agree with you, that is pine. Well, if the challenger, if they're right, they get to move their piece, their little marker here, up a space, which is 1 point closer to victory. If anybody gets their marker all the way in the center, they actually win the game. They'll win the game right then and there. And so we have to be extra careful in how that works out. They'll get to move that, and then this oil would be out of the game since we identified, oh yeah, this is pine. We're going to set that out of the game. It is gone and done. Now, if they'd agreed with my statement that it was pine, but actually we check and it's not pine, that's incorrect, it is not pine, they don't get to do anything. And I, as the player who bluffed them, whether intentionally or unintentionally, will get to move my marker 1 space forward instead, which moves me closer to victory, which is great. Conversely, they could choose to disagree. So I say, oh yeah, this is pine. They could say, no, I disagree. That's not true. It's not pine. If they're correct, they get to choose. They can move their marker a space forward, or they can then smell this oil. So since they said, oh yeah, this is pine, they can then choose to smell the oil since they knew it wasn't pine, and they can try to guess what it is. And if they guess correctly what the oil is, they can move their marker 2 spaces forward, which is a huge leap forward. Though if they say they disagreed and they were incorrect, so I was correct, I said this is pine, they say, oh, I disagree, it is in fact pine, then I, as the starting player, would get to move my marker 1 space forward, and again, the oil would be removed. Now, that was a lot of info to throw at you at one time, but effectively, what this is, it's a little bit of a bluffing game. You have to weigh the costs and values of what you're doing. If you smell an oil and you're confident you know what it is, it's not just enough to know what the oil is. You need to get an opponent who you can bluff into letting you kind of get your way with this oil. Just knowing what it is not enough to win. You are trying to find an opponent who you think will either agree or disagree with you in a way that is beneficial to you, because of course that challenger, if they're ever right, like if they agree with you that it's pine in this case, and it is pine, then your guess is bad. You don't get anything, and you've just helped your opponent. And so there's a lot of interplay in this about how you can trick your opponents into doing what is beneficial for you. And I really enjoyed that. It's a really fun game type. It's quick. It plays in about 20 minutes. It's super fast. But what's great is there's 2 ways to win. As we mentioned before, there is the way that you move your marker forward. And the other way is if you're correctly guessing scents and these are removed, you actually will mark them with a cube showing that that has been correctly guessed. And if all of those scents from a player have been correctly guessed, regardless of where their little marker is on the track, if they have all their cubes filled, then they will win the game. If all 5 of their aromas have been covered. So there's a fun little secondary way to win, and I always like alternate victory conditions. So for a small box game that is built on essential oils, this is a really fun little way to learn the scents that are essential oils, learn a little bit more about some of the things that are out there in the world to smell, and play a really fun little tricky deduction game involving your nose. I can honestly say there's nothing like this out there in the market right now, which is really cool. So that is the long and short of the discovery game type for Aroma. And keep in mind, there are 3 other game types that we haven't even covered. There is a survival game type where you're trying to play knockout and effectively eliminate your opponents. There is also the resolve game type where you're effectively working against the clock. You're racing your opponents to try and identify your essential oils first. And then finally, there's even the collect game type where all of the oils are again out there and you're trying to find your 5 that are tied to your player color. And so there's a lot of replayability in this game based on the game types that you play and just the aroma set that you choose to lock into. Do you want to be floral? Do you want to be trees? There's lots of things that you can do. This game actually even doubles as a COVID test, of course, because it relies so heavily on your nose. And this has been a really fun little experience in a box that I've been able to do because there's not a lot of board games. There's no board games out there that revolve around your nose quite like Aroma does. So this is the discovery game. And again, keep in mind, you have 3 other game types to look forward to in this game. So there's a lot packed into this very, very tiny box. And that is Aroma in a nutshell. I hope that you enjoyed getting a first look at this board game preview at Aroma, this game that uses your nose in a way that not any board game that I'm aware of ever has. It's very unique. Now, as I mentioned, this is a board game preview, not a review, so I'm not going to offer my personal thoughts or critiques on the game in any way, but we wanted to give you guys a chance to get a look at this game before it comes out into the market. So keep your eyes peeled for Aroma. It will be out there very soon. I hope you enjoyed getting a look at one of the 4 game types that are available in this game when it releases. One other thing to note before we conclude is that Organic Aroma has included these little cards that contain some facts and information about each of the essential oils that are in the game that actually may benefit your health as well. So if you're interested in those are included as well in the game. So that is everything that is included in the game of Aroma. I hope you enjoyed getting this first look at this title that is being released very soon, and I hope that you'll continue to come to Meeple Mountain for all of your board game content needs. As always, happy gaming. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Check out some of our other Meeple Mountain content. I promise you won't be disappointed. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.